episode of Lexit Pennsylvania podcast. We are on episode number 2. And right now, this is your host, Ralph Jones, my friend and battle buddy, City Director of Lexit Pennsylvania, and myself, Antoine Gis, Assistant State Director of Lexit Pennsylvania. And we have a special guest today. We have Miss Marlene Downing. She is doing awesome work. She is an author, a parent, and she is the State Deputy Director of the Susan B. Anthony List. And she has come to us together today to give us information about abortion, the hot button issue that everyone is talking about. She's going to give us some information and kind of dispute some of the false truths that are out there. And I'm going to ask Ralph if he has anything to say before we jump into this interview with Ms. Marlene.
Thank you. Thank you again for joining us for another episode. We thought this episode should be done because of the recent, few months ago, of the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which had been in law for almost 50 years. And we want to get you the information on what PA's standpoint is and what the law is for Pennsylvania, and what we're getting information from an expert on, I guess, putting the myths aside where, you're taking away the rights and all the other crazy stuff, from someone who is in the trenches, who's on the battlefield with this hot topic, this hot issue. And again, we want to go straight to the source for the latest and greatest information.
All right, and without further ado, Ms. Marlene Downing.
Hello everyone, I am Marlene Downing, and as I said, I am the Deputy State Director with Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. We have rebranded ourselves from Susan B. Anthony List, and we are happy to be represented here with Lexit.
Awesome, fantastic. And I recently heard that you guys were out there, because I know that you are doing canvassing. And
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about canvassing and what it is that you're doing in Pennsylvania.
So in Pennsylvania, we are going door to door. We have several different counties that we are in, basically all over Pennsylvania. But I am responsible for Philadelphia and Delaware counties and Chester counties. And then we have different field directors that are responsible for the other counties, such as Erie, Scranton. We have someone in Pittsburgh. So we have like the whole state of Pennsylvania, and we are knocking doors at every corner of Pennsylvania to try to bring the knowledge to the voter, just so that they know exactly what's going on. The media can say what they say, but then there's also truth. The media does bring some information, but we want to let them know exactly what's going on, so that they understand, they have a very clear understanding, so that they can make a very well-rounded decision at the polls in November.
Awesome. So I do a lot of engagement with the general public, often talking to young people, and one of the quick falsehoods that I'm hearing is they're trying to take away our rights as women. Now, I don't know if you can expand on that, but when you hear someone say they're trying to take our rights, I feel as though that's like a fear tactic. What do you think?
It saddens me, and it's exciting at the same time, because when you have a bunch of lies, the truth has to come out. And I just believe that there are a lot of loud voices that are out there just spreading false information, things that are making, like you said, there's fear tactics, and making people very up in arms because they feel that their rights have been taken away, and it's just the opposite. With Roe versus Wade being overturned, which has been long overdue, because it never should have happened in the first place. What happens is it comes back to the states. So it's not taking a right away, it's giving their rights back to them. It's giving their voice back to them. So what they're going to be responsible for is however they feel, their decision at the polls has to reflect, who they're going to bring into office to represent their views. And that, I believe, is just the best part of us taking it away from the courts, the Supreme Court, and bringing it back to the states where it belongs.
And I think because some people are just one issue voters. Like it's one issue will take their vote away or give it to the other person. And in Pennsylvania, we're up for a new governor, and with some of the the mistruths out there, could mean another vote for a candidate who may not quite deserve that vote just off of that issue. What actually made you get started in this valiant effort towards pro-life?
So I have my own story, my own life story, and it's all about life. Like it starts with life, and all of us have been brought here. If we had not been allowed to live, then we wouldn't be having this podcast at this time. So it just makes it for me. It makes sense for me to be involved in this. What we're doing now, because I was a person that aborted my children twice, and God spoke to me and He told me that I would see my children in heaven, and so that just changed my whole life. And then my pastor at the time, he asked me to be the director of the pregnancy center, and I directed that pregnancy center with all of my heart, just speaking to women that looked just like me, that had pretty much the same story as I did, and I was able to speak to them with truth and just let them know, there's a better way, because what they don't speak about is abortion regret. And so I did the pregnancy center for 4 years, and God just told me, it's time to go. So I stepped out on faith, and I did not know, what position I was going to hold next. And then miraculously, after I put in my resignation, and right before I was about to leave, I got offered the position with Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America. At that time, it was Susan B. Anthony List, and I never knew that this was the next phase of what he had me going into, because who knew that Roe versus Wade was going to be overturned?
Right.
I mean, I felt it, but I didn't know for sure. So when it got overturned, it just all made sense, and it's just been a journey, and it's good to actually talk to people, the voters at the door, and just talk to different people and just give them the truth, and just know that through the states we're going to be able to fight this out and battle it out.
Right.
And that was going to be one of my first questions. My first question was going to be, what's your reaction to the overturning of Roe versus Wade? And you just answered that. So let's go to my next question. How does the decision affect the women in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
So that's something that they need to know, because
Yes.
a lot of women are very scared, because there are a lot of mistruths. One thing that it's not going to affect is if someone is having a miscarriage. A lot of people are saying that if it comes down to a ban in Pennsylvania, that miscarriage will be affected, ectopic pregnancies will be affected. Those things are not deliberate abortions. They are miscarriages. They are ectopic pregnancies. They don't have any relation, so they won't be affected by that. What we are fighting for is, if it just comes down to it, is that we know with elective abortion, right now we have issues that could possibly potentially go to legislators that are trying to take away the rights totally for us to be able to have rights for parental consent. Like they want to take that away. They want to take away just the right for taxpayers to not have to pay for abortion. They want taxpayers to pay for abortion and abortion on demand. So nobody wants to do that. Like that's what they're not speaking of. So in Pennsylvania, what it means for a woman is that you're not banned. Right now, the state of Pennsylvania is not one of those trigger law states that 13 trigger law states that will ban abortion. But currently, we are battling it out with legislation.
Oh, wow. So me and Ralph are two manly men, right?
Yeah.
And what we tend to hear a lot is men don't have a say. Men don't have a right to have any input, and that's a really, I feel it's definitely a misnomer where, men do have a right, we do have a say. What do you say to men who are on the sidelines, who feel as though their voices aren't heard just because they're men?
So there are two kinds of men.
Okay.
Well, actually, there's only one man.
Right.
One kind of man. It's the man.
What is a man?
But then we have men, based off of their gender, that are not really standing up. They're not owning up to their responsibilities. And I believe that the fact that abortion has been a band-aid for people to be able to say, okay, I renege my responsibility. You just go get an abortion. That has allowed a lot of the things that are problems to not have a solution.
Okay.
What they're showing now is that the solution is death. The solution is abortion, and that is not the truth. So I think I'm excited that all of this is going on because we've been talking about it forever. We've been out in front of abortion clinics praying and doing all of the things that we do as a pro-life community. But for the people that have taken this for granted, now it's back in their face. Like, hey, abortion is really still happening. Abortion is going on, and there is something that needs to be done about it. So they're actually able to talk about it, and it's actually clearing up a lot of the wounds that have been tucked away for years.
Wow.
So, some of these questions are from a male's point of view, so excuse how I phrase these questions. Let me back up a little. Let me give you. I would say abortion, in the biblical sense, is a sin because it's thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
Now, also to that, there are three things that we have to take into consideration. Is that one, the woman doesn't get pregnant by herself. It has to be the man and the woman agreeing or not agreeing in certain situations to do the do, as we will call it. And this is what happens when, this is I wouldn't say consequence, but this is what happens when you do the do.
Yes.
Number two is that I don't think that everybody really understands that it's a responsibility, just like driving a car, just like owning a house. It's a responsibility when you make that decision to do that. Is that this is what the consequences are. So on a male point of view, my question is, being a dad who has two daughters, one who my oldest daughter, she has two sons, not to put her business out there, and my 13-year-old, who of course don't really think much about boys in the first place, and thank God for that. My question is, and of course I'm asking the female this, is what are ways women can prevent from getting pregnant? Now I know that, okay, one is abstinence, I'm 100%, yes, we know that. But the question is, I'm all about knowledge.
Yeah.
Is there a way that, because we're probably all almost the same age, where when we were in school, they had the class, the sexual education class. This is a man, this is a woman, these are the body parts. But they never talk about, okay, what can humans, and I'm just going to say women, what can humans do to prevent the female from getting pregnant?
All right, so this question for me, okay? So I will tell you the the bare truth. There is no other way than abstinence.
Yeah.
There's no other way. Because once you introduce a young person, you go in their school, you talk about sex education, which is a lot of what Planned Parenthood does in their school, and they talk about contraceptives, and they talk about condoms, and they talk about, so you're introducing sex into school, even though they're watching TikTok, they're playing these video games, they have older brothers and sisters, they already know. Who's talking about, you don't have to do this? But Marlene. Like I actually, when I was director of the pregnancy center, I had different conferences, youth conferences that talked about purity. Nobody's talking about that. The parents actually didn't even want their children to come because they thought that it was so maybe a little bit too holy for them.
Wow.
But that is something that these kids are thirsting for, because children, the way that they are, they want to be, they actually want to be young people. They don't want to be adults, but they've been forced into adulthood. So I would say, and I know it's not popular, but the only way, it would be purity, would be abstinence, would be, to turn. Like if you were having sex, stop having sex, and wait till marriage. Now we know marriage is another thing that we have to work on, but until we bring back the family values, until we bring back that wholesomeness, then we continue on in sin, and sin breeds what we're dealing with in society today. And so it makes sense that people are out here having abortions, even though it's not right. It's what society has bred.
Yeah.
It's a culture of death. It's a culture of sex. It's a culture of, like, I went to the abortion clinic this morning to pray out there, and it looked as if it was a 12-year-old or 10-year-old. She was very young. So who knows what could have happened? Anything could have happened. But even if it was a case of incest or molestation, it started somewhere. That starts with, sin is a repetitive thing, and it builds. So.
And you know what, Marlene, you are a radical.
I am.
you to talk this way in 2022.
You know why?
You are a radical.
Because I live what I speak, and I've sacrificed a lot for that. Like I live it, So I would
And
not
when you
talk
said
this.
SP, can you clarify what that is? You said SP. I thought you said SP.
No, I don't think it. I don't know.
Hearing things.
Possibly.
That's that radical talk that you're doing.
That's like the short version for spell check.
Okay. But like I said before, it's almost like you're a radical in that terminology, in those ideals in 2022 to talk about abstinence and family and waiting, and our children are actually being, like you said, thrusted into this thinking where the school system, if you look at every theory that either sex ed or anything that they're teaching with gender theory, a lot of these things are eroding who we are as people, as young people, as adults, and abortion is kind of looked at as a fail-safe for what to do if you get pregnant, or what to do if both you guys don't want the kid. Let's go and have abortion. And rarely do we ever hear about your story, where the feelings of what abortion does to your psyche, your emotional trauma. We never hear about that. We always hear about, this is women's reproductive rights. We don't talk about the scars, the emotional trauma. There's a great theory that goes on in the Black community where we talk about generational wealth. People always talk about that. And we rarely understand that generational wealth is your family.
Yeah.
The more children and more larger your family is, that's your generational wealth. And I am blessed to have met you this year, right?
I'm blessed to have met you guys.
Oh my gosh, I met Marlene this year, and you have just broken the fifth wall, so to speak. Like, I did not quite think of abortion the same way as I do today, and it's really all thanks to you. I met you on social media, and we just
I looked you up because I was trying to find like-minded individuals.
Yes.
It's so hard
Wow.
to find
Wow.
people that you don't want to like group yourself into culture or category, but it's almost you just feel alone sometimes.
Yes. And we talked. I remember the first night we talked. I talked to you almost for 2 hours in the car, and I'm just like, yo, this is amazing. And you brought to my attention the movie, the documentary Mafia 21,
Yes.
which I advise everyone that I know, I'm constantly telling them, watch Mafia 21. It will blow your mind.
It's on YouTube.
Yes.
Right, we'll put a link in the description, in the show notes.
Exactly. And this documentary that you showed to me, it just literally, like your eyes, sometimes you feel like your eyes are open and you're awoke and you know what's going on. But that documentary completely blew the lid off of my dome. It literally blew my mind. And I just try to share it with everyone I meet. I think I might have shared it on Facebook about 20 times already. It's been a lot. And I really advise everyone to watch it, definitely before they take it off of YouTube, because the information there is so empowering. I didn't look at abortion quite the same afterwards. So I want to, while we're here on the podcast, I want to thank you for opening my eyes and encouraging me to get involved, because you are truly a person who not is only just talking about it, you're actually living it. You're living it, and you are in the struggle, and you're trying to change hearts and change minds, and I completely commend you for that. And I went a little over with that, but
thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, sure, no problem. And what do you have for that?
So I want to backtrack to the trauma that we have as African Americans, and I just want to speak to African Americans now and all of the women. I know that in our families, sometimes we like to tuck and, there's a lot of secrets. There's a lot of things that are left unsaid because we have been taught to deal with trauma differently than other races. We've taught to live it. We've taught to carry it. And we don't think too much about it. But I'm telling you, when I found out about what abortion was through what God had showed me, it made it so clear to me that I was walking around with this trauma and had no idea what it was, that I wailed. Like I literally, like when God spoke to me and I heard it and it hit, like it was conviction, but it was more so conviction and love, but it showed me exactly what it was. I started, like, from my soul, I wailed. I wailed so heavily, and so it was healing to be able to let it go and to let it out. And I just want to speak to you because I know there are a lot of you out there that have had abortions that are holding on to that and don't even know that that's the root cause of all of the stuff that you've been going through. The drug issues, the feelings of wanting, to commit suicide, the miscarriages, the infertility, all of those things that they are blaming, the fact that they're not able to get an abortion on, the maternity situations that they're saying that Black women should have. A lot of that is due to us having abortions.
Yeah.
And it's not just us, it's everybody. Like 63 million babies have lost their lives, and over 20 million of those were African Americans, and we only make up 13% of the population. So I just want you guys to think about what you're doing to our race. And again, I'm not, I'm not that person, but I just, like, if you're a person that's concerned about your race, think about that. Think about what you're doing to your race, and really, have a long talk with yourself. And if you believe in God, just please reach out to Him, because He'll reveal it to you.
Yeah. That is a mouthful, and you're so correct. Especially, as I like to put it, the pro-Black movement. The pro-Black movement is, it has its place, right? Being proud of your race has its place. Being proud of your family has its place, and being, and for me, being a man of God, has its place, and that's the ultimate place where I am. But if you call yourself pro-black, and knowing that the number one killer of the black community is abortion, that defeats the whole argument of being pro-black to me. And if that's like your hill, because that's the hill some people want to die on with their dashikis and their fists in the air. But if you can't stand on being against abortion, everything else is null and void, because your race is what you claim to be about. And you can't be silent and watch all these millions of black babies being murdered and slaughtered and still call yourself a person who's concerned about being the black race, if that is what your plight is. I'm about the whole human race, But what do you think about that, bro?
Well, I'd like to give you my thoughts when we come back from our break.
All right, and welcome back. We are here with State Director of the Susan B. List, Marlene Downing.
Deputy State Director.
Deputy State Director.
And it's not List anymore.
Yes.
Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America.
Whew, that's a mouthful.
It is. That's why it's okay that you said List.
But it's a valiant and a
Absolutely.
great cause, and I love what they're doing. I love what you're doing.
So, you wanted to know what I wanted to, if I had anything to ask. So to wrap this up, the question I have, and it might be emotional, because again, I'm a dad and I have a daughter. Marlene, what, I'm going to call you an advocate. Is that right? Can I say that? An advocate? We're just going to use advocate. That's the word that everybody.
That's fine.
I want to call you a freedom fighter for the baby.
All right, we'll say
I was
freedom.
an activist.
All right, activists. Yes, we're going to say freedom fighter for the babies.
Advocate
But,
is too soft.
So, as a freedom fighter for the babies, how does your journey affect your daughter, and what does that? How does she feel about you doing what you're doing?
So I have two daughters. I have a 21-year-old and a 12-year-old. So my 12-year-old actually got into a conversation with someone in school, and she is totally pro-life. She understands what it is. She understands what I do, and she told me that, Mom, you have the best job in the world.
Wow.
So that really, really makes me feel good that my daughter looks up to me. Now, my oldest daughter, I know that this has had an effect on her, and I don't know whether the way that I live my life had an effect on how she feels about life, but she is totally pro-life. Her sister, actually, from her father, her sister said, "I know who your mom is." When she got pregnant, she said, "I know who your mom is. And, I know how serious she is about abortion, like people not having abortion, but you don't have to have this child. Like, you don't really have the resources. You're not with the father. Why would you bring a child into the world like that?" And my daughter, shut her down and told her that she would not think about not having her child. Like, this is what she wants to do, and it had nothing to do with her mom, which I know for sure, because Morgan is a free thinker. So I just, really appreciate who she is, and just the fact that she respects life. So I just love my daughters. Both of them are amazing children.
I think that's the key to the children and adults today too, is that when you respect life, everything else falls into place. Not that, plus you gotta have a relationship with God, with Christ. You have to have a spiritual relationship, because your spiritual relationship discerns you on things that you're doing. I know a lot of times, being in the military many times, doing things, I'm like, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to answer to God for that? Kind of runs through my mind. And I think as human beings, we need to think like that. As you know, the saying is, what would Jesus do? Just think about that sometimes when you think about it. And again, I understand maybe the whole incest thing, and I understand the rape thing. Those are situations that you have to pray on. You have to have, again, discernment on where God wants to lead you in that case, because it could be that something that was bad will be made for good. You have to remember that. That's one thing you have to remember. And again, not to put business out there like that, but when I was younger, the young lady I was dealing with, we had one. And the kicker was I was like, okay, well, it's her body, her choice. And, not realizing that my mom had already told me, if you agree to this, you are culpable for the outcome. And that has stayed with me for a long time. And watching videos, now that we have the internet, there's no reason why no one can go to the internet and say, well, what is this? And you can look at videos in life.org, lifeaction.org. I cried like a baby the other day watching one video. They were showing the babies. Oh my gosh, I'm about to cry. They were showing the babies in this basket, in the barrel, and it broke my heart. And knowing that I've got 7, I've got 5, you know what I mean? And to see that these things, and to have a radical warrior like Marlene to be a voice, and the Susan Foundation to be the voice of, you don't have to do that. There's other ways. Remember, Planned Parenthood is not what it really means. It's not Planning Parenthood. It's not. So the name doesn't make any sense. So I don't know why they use it. You know what I mean? But this is so much. It's so much we can get into on this. But
it's deceptive marketing.
Yes, it's deceptive. Yes, that's the word.
It's deceptive marketing. It's reproductive rights, Planned Parenthood, you name it. There's so many misleading terms that it softens the blow. It doesn't make you feel as though
Women's health equity.
Oh, like that. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Anytime you hear equity
Think
and
about
diversity,
equity, that sounds good, right?
Yeah, that sounds. I want more of equity. You're gonna cut up the pie equally. Oh wow, I want some. So yeah, those words are very deceptive, and it's important that it sounds like like from your point of view, Ralph, that it starts early. I know I was very fortunate to have Marlene give her talk here with us, and I actually had my son available. And my son is 17, and he heard about it, and we had a talk about it beforehand, and his mind completely went to 360 on terms of how he felt about it. And he thought it's just a clump of cells. And it's like, oh my gosh, Dad, I totally look at this totally differently. And that did my heart well. I was, beaming on the inside that my son looked at something different. Anytime your child learns something, and especially when you see it in real time happen, it's an amazing experience. So again, me and Ralph were saying, thank you for being here and for, sharing those points with us and with our viewers and listeners. Because the one thing that Blexit mission is to start free thinking in the Black community, in the inner city community, for us to not feel afraid to think differently. Because right now, the abortion issue, you're being told one story, but it's not the truth. And, Blexit is all about free thinking in the urban community. Like I said, the Black community suffers from abortion. Abortion takes out more Black people than any gun violence, more than any drug. Abortion is a killer. And if you say killer over reproductive rights, it starts to hit different, as the kids would say, So I thank you, Marlene, for coming in. And do you have any closing words of wisdom and words of inspiration for us. And we will make sure we send the links at the bottom of your resources where you can find help if you are dealing with abortion issues. If you have any questions or if you don't know where to turn, definitely leave a comment and we'll try to get back to you. But Marlene, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, that's a good segue into the resources that are available out there. There's so many of them. There are over 2,700 pregnancy centers around the nation. All you have to do is plug in your zip code and type in pregnancy center. And anytime you go to these pregnancy centers, you're met with love. It is not just for them to tell you not to have an abortion. What they do is give you options, and those options include, you having resources, and then also options for adoption. There's so many resources out here for you, like the maternity homes and just people that just want to help. There's so many people out here, and that's something that's really not talked about a lot, how much the pro-life community does for women and babies and how much we love them. Like, we see the heart and how they're victimized, and all we want to do is help. And what they've done in the media and just a lot of different other places, it just made us out to look like the enemies.
Yeah.
And if you give us a try, it's almost like someone telling you, try Jesus.
Right.
Not that we're Jesus, but if you just give us a try, you'll see that maybe you thought something that was incorrect about us. So I would just say, just look up a pregnancy center. Even if you have children and you're not pregnant, they're willing to help. So if you have any needs, look up a pregnancy center, and they'll be actually helpful to you. So,
Are you familiar with preborn?
yes.
Okay. Marlene is an encyclopedia of information. So any question that you have, please reach out to her. She will be more than happy to help. She's done amazing work here. I can call on her. Actually, I'm in the process of working with Marlene closely and getting active and spreading information about abortion and baby rights, because we gotta save the babies.
Yeah, now, the last thing that I'd like to speak about is the post-abortive help, and
Okay.
they have it for men too, just to let you guys know.
Oh, wow.
And did you have any issues with abortion, or were you affected by abortion in any way, Antoine?
Well, I was affected by abortion. Definitely growing up, when we talk about culture with dating and the music is constantly telling guys to be players and pimps and have a bunch of girlfriends. I remember that period in my life where I was out there and I paid for abortion, and it was recommended to me, like, you don't want to do that, you don't want to have a kid, and it's just like you don't think about it because it's being pushed to you as a means to an end. This is going to cure all your needs. This is going to cure whatever problems you have, and like you said, Marlene, it's definitely a burden on your heart as you get older. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we save you guys the heartache, because it's definitely a lonely walk sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know, being a father of three, my daughter is 25, my son is 17, and I just recently lost my son in January. I totally look at life differently, and I look at life differently, and life is so precious. And as you age and you accomplish things and your children accomplish things, you constantly will be wondering, I wonder what this child would have done. And regret is probably one of the hardest things to deal with, is to deal with regret. And there's no drug, as much as they try to tell you that they have a drug to cure depression, it just recently came out that that's a placebo. That depression is something that you have to handle within yourself and with God. And some people really can't handle it. and it's something that you really should not have to deal with on your conscience to know that you willfully ended a life. So,
So if you're a man
Mhm.
and you've had an abortion, and a lot of women might want to take you out of that equation, you're part of the equation.
yeah,
You have an opportunity to seek help and healing through.
Mhm.
It's something called Deeper Still.
wow,
And I went there for my abortion healing.
Mhm.
So it's post-abortive healing that's available to people. But this Deeper Still, and then there's also an organization called She Found His Grace by
Wow.
Serena Dyson. But with Deeper Still, it's like a retreat. They pay for a weekend for you to come out and you really sit and you kind of pull everything out. Like
Wow.
instead of like letting it sit there,
Mhm.
they have a special way of pulling it, and then at the end of it, they give you little bears, like
Wow.
and it's when you get to hold that baby, it's a bear, but it sounds. But let me tell you, I've never had an experience like that
Mhm.
ever in my life, and it is needed. And so, Deeper Still of Eastern Pennsylvania is available for people who need it. So just look that organization up.
And
Wow.
we'll have that also have that link in the show notes also.
Yes.
Wow, Marlene, I really, I wasn't expecting those line of questioning, but I definitely appreciate it, and it was, that almost felt like a sigh of relief because I don't think I've ever disclosed that to anyone. So thank you for that little mini therapy session. I appreciate that and love you for that. We have anything else, bro?
Just stay tuned for the next one. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. If you want to be a member of Blexit, we have the link right here and also in the show notes, and all the information from Marlene's organization will be also in the show notes, and her contact information will be there. And just thank you for joining us.